Hello friends, neighbors, John, your neighbor here. Welcome down to the Nook, and we're going to talk about scotch that could be on shelves in your area, but likely not, because they're just not made anymore. I'm sorry for talking so late about these bottles. They've been on my shelf and somehow I just didn't get around to them. This is Balblair. Back when they were doing vintages, it's the 2005. This one was bottled 2018, so it's a 13-year-old scotch. And then we'll go over to this Glenmorangie Nectar. It's a 12-year-old scotch. I'll talk more about maybe what they've been replaced with. So this is more an exploration perhaps of house style, or if you can see them. I've seen a little more of this bottle kicking around on dusty shelves still. This Balblair, I don't know, could be gone. But pour some scotch and come on back and we'll just sip some whiskey together. 3, 4. Thanks for coming back. As I said in the opener, these bottles should have been talked about earlier. They've been discontinued from the distillery. Maybe they were around, but what can they still tell us? So this is Balblair 2005. Now, this one, they did a series of releases. I think the first one was bottled 05, released 2016, maybe it was even 2015. I'm trying to think. But this one was bottled in 2018, so it's a 13-year-old scotch. It's all ex-bourbon, and it's all natural color, non-chill filter, and really all of that is right on here. Natural color, non-chill filter, 46%, distilled 05, bottled 2018. So, you know, it's a tiny label, but actually gives us quite a bit of information. Now, just so you're aware, if you're looking for a new Balblair, they have slipped into the age stated. So they have 12, 15, 18, and so on, instead of these vintage releases, which, you know what, I actually thought it was kind of cool. Part of me wishes they would have kept doing vintage releases. It helps stand out from a market of 12, 15, 18-year-old scotches. But what's this one like? 13-year-old scotch, been open for a while, on the nose. You know, it's an interplay of light vanillas and orchard fruits. I'm getting a lot of sweet fruits in here. Sweet pear, a light green apple. Yeah, very, like, honestly, it tastes. I haven't tasted here with you. It gives the nose of something kind of young, like a young grain, bright, white fruits, sweet fruits, and some vanilla mixed in. Let's try this Balblair 05 on the palate. Sancha. Quite a spice palette in there. Some of that sweet, light orchard fruit is still there, absolutely. But it's giving quite a bit of nutmeg, white and black pepper, and a little bit of something else. I'm going to try to get that spice later. Now a little bit of sweeter almonds. So sweet nut oils. It's got nice mouthfeel, but not as coating as I expected for non-chill filter. 46%. I was hoping for chewy. It's not. It's cleansing, and I wonder if the ex-bourbon, well, it's not having a huge heavy like I'm looking for. Sometimes ex-bourbon 13 years in those casks, you're going to pull out a little more caramels, a little more toffee, light sweetness that way, light sugars that way, definite, and a little bit of ginger, a little bit of orange on the back finish. Better try another sip, Slancha. A surprising amount of heat for a 13-year-old scotch. That's young for many people, but it's not a 5-year-old scotch, but it's hot. It's got cracked peppers and alcohol heat in it. Second sip, and actually the finish, which is longer than you'd expect, I'm getting other secondary flavors. That orange I mentioned is definitely present for me. I've got now a little bit of orange mixed in with, like, the first stuff is all sweet orchard. Depth comes more in the finish, which makes me think this still needs more time. 13 years, as I said, isn't actually all that young, but it's aging slowly here. I think it needs another, I don't know, feels like if that's its age rate, another 5-6 years. I haven't had the Balblair 18-year-old, but I think perhaps their spirit would speak a little more, with a little more resting time. Good flavors here, lots of layers to actually chew on, and I hate rating a bottle that you really can't get anymore. If it wouldn't be as hot, this would be great. This would be an over 4-star. It's very hot, and it's, as I said, it's been half bottle for 2 years. Like, it's been, no, not for a year. I've had it open and well open for a year. Anyways, it's got to go down about 3 3/4, which is too bad because I think there is echoes of greatness, or echoes, it sounds like it's past. That's not it. It's coming into its own. So if you're looking for a Balblair, I should have got a 12-year-old because I know they've gone into that release to shoot against it. But this being a 13, I'm feeling like at least the 15 is probably where I'd enter. Not having had it, I have no idea. This, it's a good Scotch, but it's a little hot. I haven't talked to you guys about a Glenmorangie in quite some time, and that's too bad. Glenmorangie was an early, I don't know if I would say favorite of mine, but a little bit of a go-to in recommending. Like, even their standard 10 for a long time seemed to be a nice entrance Scotch for people that have never had a Scotch before. I don't usually recommend it anymore, and I haven't had a 10 in years. But this Glenmorangie Nectar is their, 10 years in ex-bourbon and then 2 years in Sauterne casks. So I wish the color was natural because it is significantly darker, but I don't have any confirmation of this. Any of my friends in Germany can probably confirm. I just expect it to be colored, which is disappointing. I have, and I thought I had it on the bottle. I'm sure I had it on the bottle, but getting ready for it, I couldn't find it on here. I want to go out on a limb and say that this is non-chill filtered. It is released at 46%, and I know a lot of times when we see 46%, many of us jump to that, it must be non-chill filtered, because now you could cool it down and it's not going to go cloudy or milky, and that's one of the reasons why Scotch is chill filtered, so it retains clarity even if it gets chilled down. This is 46%. Again, it's mostly ex-bourbon, most of its life in that kind of base ex-bourbon, and then a couple years in Sauterne cask. Now, I want to say you can't get this anymore, although I have seen it in the Edmonton area. Lucky Liquor, no, what's that one downtown on 107? They had it very recently and still a good price. So I think you're more likely to find this kicking around than the much more limited release Balblair. But they do have now a 16-year-old just nectar release, and it has Sauterne cask, but it has something else in it, and I haven't had it. So I don't know if they just decided in their new releases to grow this up, but anyways, this is a 12-year-old Scotch, also 46%. Let's see what we get on the nose. It's also a bit savory and spicy on the nose. This coming back is a little bit grainy, which is interesting. I'm not getting, it's a little tight on the nose. Again, this bottle has been kicking around for a while. It has not given up much. A little more toffee sweetness, a little vanilla, and a little bit of sweeter. It's not this strong, but a little bit of maybe stone fruit. Yeah, all right. I'm going to try the palate. So, Sláinte. Maybe these were meant to be reviewed together by me, anyways, in my palate. I'm also getting a fair amount of spice on here. Little more white pepper than black, so not quite as hot. And I'm also going to say some ginger. It's got a little more depth in fruit. I imagine that's the wine cask finishing, so it's got a little more sweet pastry going on, a little more Yeah, like here I was definitely getting some dark citrus, but it took a while to get out. This one, if I've got it, I almost got a sweet, like a, that's too much. It's not that much orange. But it's got a little bit of citrus and really, really light chocolate. Let me try another sip. Slancha. So not a tasting note I've recorded, and I've had this bottle for a while, but I am getting those dairy chocolate oranges. It's got to be impression because I got a little bit of orange here that I'm taking it into here. This is a little more coating, definitely more fruit, but it's still sweet fruit and a little more malt character. I'm going to take that into a pastry note. I was getting that earlier, a little bit more pastry, a little bit more light chocolate orange. It's not a very chocolatey dram by any means. I don't think it has anything that would take us there normally. Like that would be I get chocolate off port finishes. I get chocolate off chocolate malts, of course, any of that. And none of that is in this bottle. None of it, but getting just a little light chocolate, quite a bit of spicing. It's more drying in the palate and the finish than this one. So while the fruit is more lively when I'm tasting it, it finishes cleaner and drier. I'm going to give this, it doesn't have the heat of this one. So even though it's 12 versus 13, this is a more composed whiskey. This is a good Scotch. And for the price, I picked it up because they don't make it anymore. So if you find it on a Dusty, you might get a good deal on it like I did. I can recommend this one. I'm liking this. Now, it's a little more, especially when I'm thinking Glenmorangie, it's a bit more spicy, drying, and light white peppering than their regular house style, and that might put some people off. I definitely think their sherry finish or their port finish, like Quinta Rubin and La Santa range, would have more appeal than this one. I think this one has that really drying on the end that could put someone off, but I like it. Critically, I sat this one up around 3 3/4, and this isn't much more. Of the two, it's getting like a recommend of these two, which is odd because this is a big house, it's a smaller house, this has unique vintage. And you might think I would want to recommend this, but boy, this one's hot. This one's a bit more composed. They're both very spicy in the palate. And right now I'm leaning towards this one as a recommend, but critically they're going to sit up around the same kind of price, which is maybe, I'm harder with my star ratings than I ever have been. Anyways, I'm glad I was able to finally share these with you, and I really actually apologize. I should have jumped on sharing because I got this also at a clearance price, Campbell Liquor here at St. Albert, and they had like boxes of them just sitting around, and I should have jumped right on the channel and said, hey, anybody in the area, if you want to try it, and I didn't. I apologize for that, but maybe it's still good. Some core thoughts. Let me know if you've had the 12, the 15, or 18 of Balblair. Any of those notes resonate. And I would love to hear from anyone out there that's had the new 16-year-old Nectar, because I think that's going to take it somewhere more. Of course, it's 4 more years, but I think they must be chasing a particular flavor profile that they kind of have here, but they realize they need a little more time. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for sharing these with me. Hope you guys have a great weekend.